Hello and welcome to another art house movie review. This time I'm reviewing the film London, directed by Patrick Keiller. Now Patrick Keiller has made a trilogy of films about this character Robinson, and London is the first of the trilogy. The other two are Robinson in Space and Robinson in Ruins. A movie in the UK has screened all three of these films, so it's an unusual opportunity to watch them, so I've watched them all. My review is principally focused on London, which I think is definitely the best of the three, but I'm also going to make some comments on the other two films at the end of this review. So the opening shot is a shot of Tower Bridge, and it looks like a public information film, and it's announced that it is a journey to the end of the world. And I've seen this film before. When I saw it quite a few years ago, this beginning, just something about it just got me. It looks old-fashioned. It looks like it is going to be a boring documentary, old-style documentary, but something about it just pulled me in. And the narrator is Paul Schofield, who has this beautiful Shakespearean voice, and the narrator tells us this story of him and his associate Robinson as they go round and analyse London. Now, Robinson is such an interesting character. Obviously, we never meet him directly. What he says is only reported through the narrator. But Robinson, we know he's a researcher, we know he teaches fine art at the University of Barking, and we know that he wrestles with the problem of London. So what is this film? It's like a documentary. The camera is always fixed, but it's always a moving image. But the shots are really of the mundane, the everyday. But every shot feels really well composed, so it's strangely compelling, even though it doesn't look like it's shooting very interesting things. The narrator tells us about their exploration of London as we see this collage of many different images. And I think that the images don't necessarily relate directly to what's being said. Sometimes they do. Other times they seem to be a prompt for information on all kinds of topics. There's a lovely blend between fact and fiction. We never quite know. The voice, the narrator is authoritative and credible, but sometimes clearly what he's saying can't be true. But there are many, many facts which are true, and it's full of references, literary, art, architecture references. It's full of economics, it's full of business, it talks a lot about manufacturing, about geography, about the environment. It really covers all of these topics, and sometimes it makes sense, other times it's playful and surreal, but everything is said as if it makes sense and seems to fit with the image, even when there is no apparent link between what's being said and what we're seeing. We're told that Robinson says, if he looked at it hard enough, he could cause the surface of the city to reveal to him the molecular basis of historical events, and in this way he hoped to see into the future. And the film is just full of these kind of statements that Robinson makes. This really captures the spirit of the film. If you just randomly went to any part of this film and watched 5 minutes, it just wouldn't make any sense at all. It's watching it over time that it kind of works away at you. The combination of images and the fact and fiction and the narration, and it's humorous, it's sometimes a bit sarcastic, but underneath we know that Keiller is making some really serious points about capitalism and architecture and economics, and it just all makes for a really fantastic mix. There is actually a really radical politics, I think, that is being proposed in this film, but it's under the veneer of kind of conventional old-style 50s BBC information films. The device of the narrator is really interesting, and I recently read W.G. Sebald Austerlitz, where Sebald also uses a narrator. I think he was probably influenced by Keiller. So Patrick Keiller is saying a lot in these films. on all these different topics. He is speaking, but he's speaking through the narrator's reported words of Robinson. So in some ways you can be there's a freedom in that. I really love this concept that it doesn't have to be reliable. The narrator may not be fully representing what Robinson said, and Robinson might not be fully representing Keiller's views. So I think this is a really clever device that allows the propositions to be put forward, but in something other than a lecture format. Keiller could easily have done a lecture based on the information that he gives us in London, but I think there's a really clever freedom here in terms of being able to be a little bit more outrageous. One example that I really liked is he reports that Robinson saw the Queen in Leicester Square and that some person had shouted, "Pay your taxes, you scum." And I just think this is amazing because at the first level it's funny, but also there is a proposition put forward there. But Keiller himself is even one more step removed because we have Robinson reporting what someone else has said and the narrator reporting what Robinson says. So I'm just so impressed by this device. Music is used quite interestingly in this film. There's basically 2 pieces of music, and at times the music does make it feel quite emotional. At other times it makes it feel very dramatic. So we get the 2 different pieces. And you just realise, of course, how much when you're watching a film, the music influences what we see, because sometimes we're just looking at very mundane images, but you put some slightly melancholy music on and it changes what we see. So in conclusion, this is a real artwork. This is definitely art house cinema at its best. It's surreal, and it only really makes sense if it's approached that way. It's definitely not for everybody. I loved it conceptually and the experience of watching it, and he has very much influenced my own artwork. I highly recommend this film. Now, the other 2 films, Robinson in Space and Robinson in Ruins, are a very similar setup. I would say that neither are as good. Nothing quite captures that experience of experiencing it for the first time. It does feel like more of the same. For me, the final one, Robinson in Ruins, is the least successful, not least because we have a different narrator in the 3rd film, Vanessa Redgrave. And although she's fantastic, and again, Shakespearean, it's somehow not the same. And I do have the feeling with the 2nd and 3rd film that each gets less playful. The final film, Robinson in Ruins, is very dense with detailed business information. And I think even for a big fan of his work, it starts to try the patience a little bit. It also runs at a longer time. The first 2 are 85 minutes. Whereas Robinson in Ruins is 100 minutes, and I really felt that longer duration. I really admire his work, and I think the film London is genius. I had seen all of these films before, but never all 3 in the same week. And I must say, watching them all together, I did tire of it slightly. But I do recommend London. It's original, it's innovative, and it's fun. Definitely worth watching. Thanks for watching. See you next time.